For the past 7 years, I have been quietly stocking my pantry while everyone else panics over the same mainstream prepper foods. While the crowds are fighting over freeze-dried meals and canned soup, I am loading up on items that sit fully stocked on shelves even during the worst shortages. Number 4 is sitting at your Asian grocery store right now for under $3, and it solves a problem most preppers do not even know they have. Here's what nobody talks about. When everyone reads the same prepper blogs and watches the same survival channels, they all buy the exact same stuff: rice, beans, canned goods. And that is exactly what disappears first. Back in early 2020, I watched the rice aisle get cleared out in 2 hours. But there were 11 items I picked up that same day that were fully stocked the next week. Some of them are still sitting there today. These are foods that preppers are quietly hoarding right now because they understand something most people miss. The best survival food is not the food everyone knows about. It is the food nobody is fighting over. If you are new here, go ahead and subscribe because I share exactly this kind of intel every single week. Let me show you what is actually worth stocking. Number 1 is going to sound boring, but stay with me. Chicken bouillon cubes. Not the fancy organic broth in cartons. The dirt cheap cubes that come in a box of 200. Before you dismiss this as basic, here's what changed my mind. A guy who has been managing food distribution for 20 years told me these cubes are the most underrated calorie extender in existence. One cube turns plain rice into an actual meal. It adds fat and salt, which are the two things your body craves most under stress. Last winter, during a power outage that lasted 11 days, I lived off rice, canned chicken, and bouillon. It was not gourmet, but my family never complained once because the food actually tasted like something. Here's the method. Boil your rice in water with 2 bouillon cubes dissolved in it. That is it. The rice absorbs all that flavor and salt. You just turned 40 cents of rice into something your kids will actually eat without whining. A box of 120 cubes costs about $4 at most grocery stores. Meanwhile, preppers are spending $30 on one pouch of freeze-dried soup that tastes like salty cardboard. Do the math. But here is why this survives every shortage. Nobody panics over bouillon cubes. They are not sexy. They do not show up on prepper lists. When the rice aisle is empty, the bouillon is still there. I have bought bouillon cubes during 3 separate panic buying events, fully stocked every single time. Look, food prices are climbing faster than most families can adjust to. I have done the math for you and put together a free emergency pantry blueprint that lists the exact 12 items you need to feed your family for 2 weeks. It costs less than a single grocery run, and these are things you can grab from any store today. You can download it for free at the link in the description, so you can stop worrying about the next shortage and start actually building a pantry that works. Number 2 is something I ignored for years until I tried it during a week-long power failure. Canned coconut milk, full fat, not the light stuff. Not the coconut water, the thick, creamy canned milk that comes in those small cans. Here is the insight that nobody talks about. Your body needs fat to function, not wants. Needs. Most prepper food is loaded with carbs and almost no fat. Rice and beans will keep you alive, but your brain starts shutting down without dietary fat. You get tired. You cannot think straight. Food monotony makes you stupid when you need to be sharp most. Coconut milk fixes this. One can has about 50 grams of fat. You can add it to rice, you can add it to oatmeal, you can make soup with it. I opened a can that was 4 years old last month. Tasted perfect. Here's what I do. Cook your rice like normal, but add half a can of coconut milk at the end. Stir it in. It turns plain rice into something that actually fills you up for hours. A single can costs about $2 at most stores. Sometimes less at Asian markets. I have seen them for $1.50. Compare that to freeze-dried meals at $8 a pouch. But here's the real reason this stays on shelves. Most Americans do not cook with coconut milk. They do not know what to do with it. It sits there while everything else disappears. During the 2020 panic, I walked past empty shelves and grabbed 18 cans of coconut milk without anyone even looking at it. Still have some of those cans. Still good. Number 3 is one that preppers who actually lived through long-term grid down situations swear by. Dried seaweed, specifically nori sheets, the kind used for sushi. I know this sounds weird. Stay with me. Here's what I did not know until a guy who lived in Japan for 12 years told me. One sheet of nori contains more iodine than most people get in an entire week. Iodine is critical for your thyroid. Your thyroid controls your energy and your metabolism. Without iodine, you get sluggish and your immune system crashes. Most survival food has zero iodine. Rice has none. Beans have none. Canned vegetables have almost none. You can survive on rice and beans, but after a few months, your body starts breaking down. Nori fixes that. Plus, it is one of the only plant foods with real vitamin B12. I tested this during a 2-week experiment where I only ate shelf-stable food. By day 9, I felt foggy and tired. I started eating 2 sheets of nori a day. Within 3 days, I felt normal again. Here is how simple this is. Tear a sheet into pieces and toss it into your rice while it cooks, or just eat it plain as a snack. Now, kids love it because it is salty and crunchy. A pack of 50 sheets costs about $6 at any Asian grocery store. Sometimes $4 at H Mart. I have packs in my pantry that are 3 years old. Still crispy, still perfect. And here is the best part. Nobody is hoarding seaweed. I have never once seen the nori aisle emptied out. Not during COVID. Not during supply chain issues. Not ever. Most preppers have never even thought about it. That means it is always available. Number 4 is the one I teased earlier. And it is going to sound strange until you understand the science. Nutritional yeast, not bread yeast, not brewer's yeast. The yellow flaky stuff that comes in a bag or a jar. Before you click away thinking this is vegan hippie food, hear me out. This is one of the most nutrient-dense foods you can store, and almost nobody knows about it. 2 tablespoons of nutritional yeast contain more B vitamins than a multivitamin. It has complete protein. It tastes like cheese. Last year, during a winter storm that knocked out power for 5 days, I ran out of fresh food by day 2. I started adding nutritional yeast to everything. Rice, pasta, canned beans. It made everything taste like it had Parmesan on it. My kids ate it without complaining. Here is the mechanic. After you cook your rice or pasta, sprinkle 2 tablespoons of nutritional yeast on top. Stir it in. That is it. It melts a little and coats everything. Tastes amazing. A 1-pound bag costs about $8 at most health food stores or the bulk section of any decent grocery store. That bag will last you months. Compare that to preppers spending $200 on buckets of freeze-dried meals. But here's why this stays on shelves. Most people do not even know nutritional yeast exists. I have bought it during every panic event for the last 7 years. Always fully stocked, always available. This is the definition of a prepper secret. Number 5 is something my grandmother kept in her pantry for 60 years, and I finally understand why. Canned evaporated milk. Not condensed milk, evaporated. The stuff that looks like thick cream. Here is what makes this genius. It is shelf-stable milk that lasts for years and has more calories and fat than regular milk. One can has about 340 calories. Most of that is from fat and protein. During a long-term emergency, milk is one of the first things to disappear because it is perishable. But evaporated milk sits in the baking aisle and nobody touches it. I opened a can last week that was 5 years old, smelled fine, tasted fine, used it in coffee and oatmeal. Here's what I do. Mix 1 part evaporated milk with 1 part water, and you have regular milk. Use it straight in coffee if you want it rich. Add it to mashed potatoes. Add it to soup. A can costs about $1.50. I have seen it for $1 during sales. Stock up when it hits that price. I keep 30 cans in my pantry at all times. But here is the key. Evaporated milk is invisible to most preppers. They are buying powdered milk that tastes like chalk and costs 4 times as much. Meanwhile, evaporated milk is sitting fully stocked in the baking aisle. During COVID, I watched the dairy section get destroyed, while the evaporated milk shelf stayed full for weeks. That tells you everything. Number 6 is one that I felt like an idiot for not figuring out sooner. Canned tomato paste, not diced tomatoes, not tomato sauce. The thick, concentrated paste that comes in those tiny cans. Here is the fact that nobody mentions. Tomato paste is the most efficient way to store tomato flavor and nutrition. 1 small can of paste equals about 8 fresh tomatoes. It is pure concentration. No water weight, no wasted space. And it has more lycopene than any other tomato product. Lycopene is one of the most powerful antioxidants for your immune system. During a 3-week period where I could not get fresh vegetables, I added tomato paste to everything. rice, beans, soup, pasta. It made every meal taste like it had real vegetables in it. Here is the method. Add 1 tablespoon of tomato paste to your cooking water when you make rice. It turns the rice red and gives it this deep, rich flavor. Or mix 2 tablespoons into a can of beans and heat it up. Instant chili base. A single can costs about 80 cents, sometimes 60 cents at discount grocery stores. I bought 50 cans last year for $30. That is 50 meals worth of tomato flavor. Compare that to preppers buying jars of marinara sauce that cost $5 each and take up 10 times the space. But here is the magic. Tomato paste never disappears. I have checked the shelves during every shortage, always stocked. People do not think about tomato paste when they panic. They grab the sauce and the diced tomatoes. The paste just sits there waiting. Number 7 is one that sounds like health food nonsense until you taste it and realize what you have been missing. Miso paste. This is fermented soybean paste that comes in a plastic tub. You find it in the refrigerated section, but here's the secret. It does not actually need to be refrigerated. Miso is preserved through fermentation. It is basically immortal. I have a tub in my pantry that is 6 years old. Still good, still safe. Fermentation means it cannot go bad. Here's why this matters. Miso is a flavor bomb. 1 tablespoon turns hot water into soup. Real soup, not the fake stuff. It has probiotics which keep your gut healthy when you are eating nothing but shelf-stable food. Last spring I did a test. I ate only rice and miso soup for 4 days. I felt completely fine. No stomach issues, no cravings. The miso gave me enough salt and umami flavor that my brain was satisfied. Here's the simplest way to use it. Boil water, turn off the heat. Add 1 tablespoon of miso paste and stir until it dissolves. That is miso soup. Add cooked rice or noodles if you want. A tub of miso costs about $6 and contains enough paste for 40 bowls of soup. That is 15 cents per meal. Show me a cheaper way to make real soup, but here's the best part. Nobody knows about miso except people who cook Japanese food. I have never seen it out of stock, not once. Even during the worst panic buying, it just sits there in the refrigerated section while people fight over canned soup 10 feet away. Number 8 is going to blow your mind because it is hiding in plain sight. Instant coffee, not the fancy stuff. The cheap freeze-dried crystals that come in a big jar. Before you say you do not drink coffee, listen to this. Instant coffee is not just caffeine. It is a morale tool. During a grid-down situation, morale matters more than most preppers admit. When everything is terrible and you are eating the same bland food every day, a hot cup of coffee in the morning keeps you human. It gives you something to look forward to. Last winter, I went 2 weeks without power. Every morning, I boiled water on my camping stove and made instant coffee. That 10-minute ritual kept me sane. It gave structure to the day. My wife said it was the only thing that felt normal. Here's what I do. 1 teaspoon of instant coffee in hot water. Add a little sugar if you have it. If you have evaporated milk or coconut milk, even better, but plain is fine. A jar of instant coffee with 200 servings costs about $8. That is 4 cents per cup. Compare that to the cost of losing your mind because every day feels the same. But here is why this stays on shelves. Preppers do not think about coffee as survival food. They think about calories and protein. They ignore the mental game. Meanwhile, the instant coffee aisle stays fully stocked even when the ground coffee section is empty. I bought 3 jars during COVID without anyone else even looking at them. Still have 1 left. Number 9 is something I learned from a guy who lived off-grid in Alaska for 19 years. Ghee. This is clarified butter that comes in a jar. It does not need refrigeration. It lasts longer than you or I will be alive. I am not exaggerating. Ghee is pure butter fat with all the milk solids removed. No milk solids means no spoilage. I have a jar that is 3 years old sitting in my pantry right now. I opened it last week to fry eggs. Tasted like fresh butter. Here's the insight that most people miss. Fat is the hardest macronutrient to store long-term. Oils go rancid. Butter spoils, ghee does neither. You can use it exactly like butter. You can fry with it. You can spread it on bread. You can add it to rice. During a week-long power outage, I used ghee to cook everything. It made every meal taste rich and filling. Here's the exact method. Add 1 tablespoon of ghee to your cooked rice and stir. It melts and coats every grain. Your rice tastes like butter rice. Kids love it. A jar of ghee costs about $12 and contains about a month worth of cooking fat. Compare that to olive oil, which goes rancid in a year. But here is the kicker. Almost nobody knows what ghee is. I have bought it during every shortage event and the shelf is always full. It sits in the international aisle while people are panic buying vegetable oil. This is the ultimate stealth prep food. Number 10 is one that preppers who have actually used their food storage swear by, but beginners completely ignore. Fish sauce. This is fermented anchovy liquid that comes in a glass bottle. It smells intense. It tastes like the ocean. And it is the secret ingredient that makes cheap food taste expensive. Here's what a chef told me. Fish sauce is pure umami. It triggers the same taste receptors as meat. 1 teaspoon added to rice or beans makes your brain think it is eating something with meat in it, even if there is no meat. I tested this during a month where I challenged myself to eat only $5 meals. I made rice with vegetables and added half a teaspoon of fish sauce. My wife asked where the chicken was. There was no chicken, just rice and fish sauce. That is how powerful this stuff is. Here is the method. Add half a teaspoon to your cooking water when you make rice. Do not add more. A little goes a long way. You will not taste fish. You will just taste depth and richness. A bottle of fish sauce costs about $4 and lasts for years. I have a bottle that is 4 years old, still perfect. And here is the real magic. Fish sauce never disappears from shelves. Most Americans do not even know it exists. It sits in the Asian aisle completely untouched during every panic event. I walked past empty shelves in 2020 and grabbed 2 bottles of fish sauce without anyone even noticing. Still using one of them. Number 11 is the one that surprised me most because I always thought it was fancy hippie food. Dried lentils. Red lentils specifically, not green, not brown. Red. Here is the difference. Red lentils cook in 15 minutes with no soaking. Green and brown lentils take an hour and need to be soaked overnight. During an emergency, time and fuel matter. You do not want to waste propane or firewood cooking beans for 2 hours. Red lentils solve this. They cook faster than rice. They turn into mush, which makes them perfect for soup. And they have more protein than almost any other plant food. Last fall, I lived on red lentil soup for 10 days during a financial tight spot. 1 cup of dried lentils. I need 4 cups of water. Boil for 15 minutes. Add salt and tomato paste. That is a meal. I felt full. I had energy. I did not crave anything else. Here is the exact recipe. 1 cup of red lentils, 4 cups of water, 2 tablespoons of tomato paste, 1 tablespoon of bouillon. Boil until the lentils dissolve into mush. That is it. A 5-pound bag of red lentils costs about $8 at any Indian grocery store or the bulk section. That bag contains about 11,000 calories. Do the math. That is 70 cents per 1,000 calories. Show me a cheaper source of protein. But here's why red lentils stay on shelves. Most preppers are buying rice and beans because that is what every prepper blog tells them to buy. They ignore lentils completely. I have bought red lentils during 3 separate panic events, fully stocked every time. This is the food that smart preppers are quietly hoarding, while everyone else fights over the same 10 items. While everyone else is panic buying the same tired prepper foods that disappear in hours, you now know 11 items that are cheaper, easier to store, more nutritious, and will actually still be available when you need them most. These are the foods that experienced preppers stock quietly because they understand the game. The best survival food is not the food on every prepper list. It is the food nobody is fighting over. Drop a comment and tell me which one of these you're stocking up on first. Next week, I am revealing the 7 tools everyone thinks are essential for emergencies, but are actually completely useless when things go bad. You do not want to miss that one. These are tools I wasted hundreds of dollars on before I figured out what actually works. If you are serious about being prepared, this is not just about stockpiling random food items. It is about understanding the psychology of shortages and thinking differently than the crowds. When everyone panics, they all reach for the same things. They all remember the same commercials. They all follow the same blogs. That is exactly why those items vanish first. The real strategy is to find foods that are just as nutritious, just as shelf-stable, but completely invisible to the mainstream prepper community. That is where the actual advantage lives. You are not competing with thousands of other people for limited supplies. You are shopping on shelves that stay full. Let me give you a real-world example of how this plays out. Back in 2020, when the shortages were at their worst, I went to 5 different grocery stores on the same day. At every single one, the rice aisle was picked clean. The beans section was almost empty. The canned goods were down to weird things nobody wanted. But in every single store, the Asian food aisle looked like nothing had happened. Full shelves, full selection. I could buy anything I wanted. Why? Because most people do not shop in those aisles. They do not know what is there, they do not cook with those ingredients normally. So when panic buying hits, those sections get completely ignored. That is where I found most of what I just told you about. The second principle that matters is understanding shelf life. Not just how long something lasts, but how long it actually lasts and stays good. Some of the foods I mentioned stay good for 10 years or more. But here's what most people get wrong. They think shelf life means the food is edible. I am talking about foods that taste good after years of storage. There is a huge difference. An old can of beans is technically edible, but does it taste like anything? Does it taste good enough that your family will actually eat it without complaining? That matters way more than most preppers admit. The items I shared with you maintain their flavor profile. They taste good years into storage. That means you will actually use them instead of eating through your fresh groceries and leaving the storage food untouched. The third thing I want you to understand is cost efficiency. When you break down the math on these foods, you get more calories, more nutrition, and more flavor per dollar than any freeze-dried meal on the market. A freeze-dried pouch of food costs $8 to $10 and feeds one person one meal. 1 pound of red lentils costs $2 and provides meals for an entire family for days. The math is not even close. You can build a 3-month food supply for what most people spend on 1 month of freeze-dried meals. That is not being paranoid. That is being smart with money. Here is something else that matters: variety. This is the thing that separates people who actually maintain a food storage and people who give up. If you eat the same thing every single day, your body gets tired of it. Your mind gets tired of it. You start craving things you do not have. That leads to breaking your storage plan and going out to buy fresh food when supplies might be limited. But if you have multiple flavors and textures available, you can rotate things around. You can make rice taste completely different on different days. Bouillon one day, coconut milk another day, miso another day, tomato paste another day. Your brain stays engaged, your family stays happy, you actually stick to your plan. I also want to address something that comes up whenever I talk about this. People say, well, I do not know how to cook these things. I do not like these flavors. Fair point. But here's the thing. In a real emergency, you do not have the luxury of waiting for food you prefer. You eat what you have, and if you have never tried these flavors before, an emergency is the worst time to start learning. That is why I recommend starting small right now. Buy 1 jar of miso, try it once. Buy a small bag of nutritional yeast. Sprinkle it on something. Try fish sauce in a rice dish. Get familiar with these items now while you have choice and time and money. Then, when an actual shortage or emergency happens, you are not eating unfamiliar food while stressed. You already know you like it. You already know how to use it. The final thing I want to leave you with is this. Preparedness is not about living in fear. It is about living in freedom. When you have a stocked pantry, you do not have to panic when prices spike. You do not have to fight crowds when there are shortages. You do not have to eat whatever is available because you have planned ahead. You literally have the freedom to stay home, stay calm, and live normally while other people are stressed. That freedom is worth more than the cost of the food. That peace of mind is the real benefit of what I have been sharing with you. If you found this helpful, please subscribe to this channel. I release this kind of practical survival information every single week. Information that actually works. Information that does not come from someone who read it in a blog, but from someone who has tested it in real life. Someone who has lived through actual power outages and shortages and figured out what actually matters when things get hard. Your next video is coming up next week, and it is going to be about those useless tools I mentioned, the ones taking up space in people's emergency kits that do absolutely nothing when you need them. You are going to feel silly when you realize what you have been storing, but more importantly, you are going to learn what actually works. Thanks for watching. I will see you in the next one.